Welcome to our channel. This is just kind of a behind the scenes raw clip of us kind of strategizing our plan for this channel, for this group that we've been inspired to start. And really we're going with the flow. We're being inspired by just our hearts, our passion for knowledge about health during these times where all the data can be confusing. And with the fancy marketing and millions and billions of dollars that's spent, we wanted to be kind of just the raw, real version of discovery on that and how to really empower yourselves in the health space. So without further ado, I am Delia and I'm here with my good friend Doug, and let's get into it.
So all of these different diet books, health programs, diet programs, like all of this stuff that people are being consumed with each day is great.
Mm-hmm.
But unless we bring good awareness as to what the root is and create that in a visible or visual representation, I think, and this just comes from me talking to a lot of people every day about health, right? And hearing what their concerns are, and they're stuck as to what's getting them there.
Mm-hmm.
And what I find is people have a really hard time putting one and one together,
Mm-hmm.
right? So for instance, I can go with a bottle of silver, right? And this is totally not compliant, what I'm going to say here. But I can say to a person, silver destroys yeast, bacteria, and viruses.
Yeah.
Right? And what other big pharma says about that is their opinion. And we know where that opinion is being derived from,
Yeah.
right? But there's 5,000 studies on silver as an antimicrobial and an antiviral and an antifungal.
Yeah.
If you go to PubMed and you go into the government databases, right? So they're conflicting with their own information,
Yeah.
right? So let's just in a spirit of a compliant way of speaking, let's say that silver destroys yeast, bacteria, and viruses, right? And let's say that all of that information that's been researched and studied and in the government databases proving that silver is an antimicrobial, antifungal, and an antiviral, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can put that out there. There's thousands of papers out there that prove that.
Mm-hmm.
People don't take that information and say, the concern that I'm struggling with is one of those three derivatives,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So, my acne, you get the, will this cure my acne? Will this cure, or I'm going to say cure, will this help my acne? Will this help my fibromyalgia? Will this help my digestive issues? Will this help my athlete's foot? Will this help my bad breath? Will it help my sore throat? And the list goes on and on and on, right? Well, 2 seconds ago, I just explained it's an antimicrobial, antifungal, and antiviral.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, people haven't been trained or aren't thinking, in fact, to say, okay, my athlete's foot's a fungal,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So they have a hard time being able to put one and one together to say, okay, yes, this can help me, right? They have a hard time understanding that their skin condition is possibly being derived from a gut condition or bad bacteria being trapped in the skin, but more often than not, it's a bacterial condition,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we just said a couple seconds ago that there's thousands of papers on the antibacterial properties of silver, right? Just like lots of other health supplements. I'm not just picking on silver here, but I'm just saying when we look at the natural health products, aloe vera and CBD and all of these other kind of health products, there's many natural substances that are antibacterial and antivirals, right?
Yeah.
So I think if we're able to help people kind of bridge that gap to kind of think for themselves a little bit more on what it is that's causing the concern,
Ooh, okay.
then they don't need to go and read the best-selling author of the month on what his take on this is, making millions of dollars writing a book, right? We need, I think we can really help teach people to better think for themselves regarding their health as we're going through this journey, learning it together.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that tie-in, because it's highlighting the 3 core misbalance issues, or whatever you want to call it. And any product that gets results, it tackles one of those issues. So if we're reviewing the product, we're tying it back into that, like oregano oil, tea tree oil, like, why are all these things so beneficial? Well, they're, attacking bacteria, which is then creating that balance within your system. So I
Right.
like that tie-in, because that's educating them in that lens. Because on my journey with my husband, that's what we learned. The autoimmune response of type 1, there's a theory that there's an underlying viral component, like a low grade strep bacteria or something like that, that's still agitating the pancreas, which causes the misfire of destroying the beta cells. And so that's how I came into silver, because I was like, I need some type of solution that I can like high dose and give to my husband to see if this theory is correct. Now we're still in that phase of figuring that out, but everything, yeah, ties back to those things. And so I had never looked at it through that simplified lens, like, oh,
Right.
that's genius.
Right. So now we take it a little bit of a step further,
Yeah.
and we look at sort of what the differences are between silver, oregano oil, CBD, aloe vera, all of the other different natural substances, because all of these things in their most natural state have proven over thousands of years to be beneficial, right? Before the introduction of big pharma, in the early 1900s, doctors in the Merrick Manual and medicine of the time, for thousands of years up until that point, was focused on healing, right? Then big pharma came in, and the word healing went out the door, and treating became the new topic of discussion, right?
Oh yeah.
So if we look at these natural botanicals in their natural state, in a world that we believe was divinely created, as we as people are divinely created, well, that divine creation was created in order to substantiate, maintain, and heal human life, right? And that's our faith base behind what we're doing here. So looking at all of these things, and then understanding sort of how silver works different than, oregano oil or tea tree oil, or those kind of, different things, is silver is very unique in the periodic chart. Is silver is missing an electron by design, but silver will not metabolize or build up in the body, providing it's made properly. So what it does is it takes the workload off the immune system. As soon as the body needs to break down a botanical or command a function to work with that botanical, it's putting a little bit of a workload on the immune system. And that's where some people, if they're really sick and they take oregano oil or they take, different natural supplements, they may notice a little bit of an effect, or I'm not going to say a side effect, because natural botanicals don't have side effects, but they may notice an immune response, let's say, if the body's heavily overloaded from that. Whereas silver, you won't get an immune response because it's not putting any workload on the immune system. It's reducing workload on the immune system.
Love it.
Yeah.
So then do you want to mention silver in the beginning at all, or just keep it vague to like everything boils down to viral, fungal, bacterial, like?
Well, viral, fungal, bacterial are the root causes that create the symptoms, right? So the viral, bacterial, fungals additionally are what puts the workload on the immune system, creates the inflammation, and creates the cause that's diagnosed as the effect.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm type 2 diabetic as well. And I'm going to beat it, just like your husband's going to beat his type 1.
I would say, don't
right?
label yourself that. I reject that label. You are not going to be that.
Exactly.
You're healing yourself.
Exactly. And big pharma loves to label us with a condition so that they can prescribe us a medication.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't, and I'm going to chuck this out the window.
Yeah.
Right. And what's that?
That metformin?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate it. Like I hate. All right, so let's look at this. Metformin hydrochloride, right?
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck is that? Sorry about my language. But
Chloride. What's that? Chlorine?
yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
toxic chemical,
Yeah.
right? Lab created chemical, like we can write that. So how was our bodies, if we're designed by intelligent design,
Oh yeah.
programmed by our creator to use oil, alcohol, and gasoline to rectify a solution?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's crazy. And the whole Graham was prescribed that metformin, glipizides, 2 forms of insulin. That's my husband's name's Graham. I don't think I mentioned that, but like,
Yeah.
and it was just, this is it for life. Like, that's all you're giving us, doctor? So, it says unstable. You hear me okay?
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
that's because under the current, just a sec, you're just freezing up there. All
yeah.
right.
Okay.
You're just freezing up for a second. But unfortunately, that's the world that people have chosen to live in now.
Oh, now you're freezing on me. Okay, there you go.
Perfect. So people have chosen to live in this state of enslavement to these because that's what their doctor tells them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you really want to confuse your doctor, there's one question that you can ask them. What's making me sick?
That's a good one.
What is the root cause that's making me sick, doc?
Yeah.
So if we can identify the root cause of what's making me sick, what are we going to do to make me better?
That's good.
Right. And that's the questions that people don't ask their doctors and we've been trained as a society to not ask the tough questions, right? We go to the doctor, we say, this is what I feel. The nurse takes our blood pressure, takes some blood tests, takes our weight, comes back and says, you've got this, right? Because your symptoms, according to my chart, say that you're suffering from this condition. Here's a prescription, go get some pills, and life should be good.
Oh, yeah.
But nobody asks, how long am I going to be on these for? How do I get off them? So people just aren't trained to ask the tough questions, right? And it's like when people go into the grocery store and they buy all these fancy things that are convenient, right? Box looks sexy, cool looking little dude on here. It's easy. I can make it in 15 minutes and fill the tummies of my family. Right? That's the mindset that we've, as a population, created for ourselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Conscious eating.
So let's look at that. Wheat pasta, modified milk ingredients, cornstarch salt, enriched wheat flour, dried parmesan, lactic acid, calcium lactate, highly monosaturated vegetable oil, like silicon dioxide, dithium phosphate, xanthan gum. Okay, so what's one benefit that your body's going to take from this, other than the feeling of full and the neurons that are going to go from our stomach to our mind to create a sensation of happiness, which is in a lot of this junk, and that's why people eat it, right?
Yeah.
So chemicals, right? We're filling our body full of crap.
Yeah. So how does the chemical aspect tie into the bacterial, viral, fungal aspect?
Well, it's putting the workload on the immune system. You're putting a whole bunch of substances in your body that it was never designed to digest.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the body going to do with it? It's either going to store it, right? Because it's like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm not naturally programmed to do it. You know, it's like if you put antifreeze in your engine oil in your car,
Mm-hmm.
what's going to happen? Your motor's going to blow up,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you put oil in your cooler of your car, what's going to happen? Your engine's going to overheat, right? So you're putting substances into something that it wasn't designed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So in all of this stuff that we're looking at, and you and I are going to go deeper into this, you know, kind of each episode, what I would like to do is this, before we do an episode and we pick on a product, let's say, right, we can quickly do a quick doc up that has all of these ingredients on it. And then we can kind of take the viewer into studying what that actually really is at the end of the day. So like I can read that stuff off. People are going to shake their heads and go, yeah, it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
But what does it really mean? Right? Like what is calcium lactate, highly monosaturated vegetable oil? What is that? Like let's kind of tear into what these things are, so we don't just read out a list of ingredients, but we I started a spreadsheet the other day. So sodium nitrate,
Mm-hmm.
right? Preservative that's been used in processed meats, bacon, jerky, luncheon meats, increases heart disease risk, and those sodium nitrate may damage your blood vessels, making your arteries more likely to harden and narrow, leading to heart disease. Sounds pretty good to me, right? Let's go have a big bowl of beef jerky.
Yeah.
Sulfites. You know, sulfites have been reported to induce a range of adverse clinical effects in sensitive individuals, ranging from dermatitis, urticaria, flushing, hypertension, abdominal pain, diarrhea, to life-threatening epileptic and asthmatic reactions.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the conclusion that we make is nobody's going to take care of us unless we take care of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
These products that we're purchasing in our store provide nothing but putting substance in our stomach to create a sensation of feeling full and a sensation of happiness based on the enzymes that they trigger to the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Oh yeah.
But if we wonder why we're going to the doctor and having the feelings that we're having, well, it first starts here.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Oh yeah.
So you can go and you can take the diet plan, you can read the healthy books, you can do all that kind of stuff, which is all fine and dandy and great. But unless you're willing to change this,
Mm-hmm.
you're just wasting your time.
Yeah.
Right? So this, unfortunately, by design, is going to lead to this.
Oh yeah.
You know, the two work hand in hand together. Let's make them sick. Let's give them the feeling of feeling better.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to get rid of this, right?
Yeah.
We get rid of this, we get to fresh and natural and real,
Mm-hmm.
right? Backed up by some digestive enzymes, right? That no matter how good we eat in this day and age, the foods that we eat and the foods that we buy, unless we're going straight to the farm to get the best that we can, but soil's been depleted, and we're not, even if we eat the most essential organic diet we can possibly do, we're still not getting 100% of what we need. Mm-hmm. So natural supplementation is pivotal, mm-hmm. right? Through probiotics, through multivitamins, through silver, because we're still living in an environment where there's toxins in the air. Like, no matter how good we choose to live, our water supply, has chemicals in it. The products that we put on our body, the cleaning products, like it's pretty much impossible in this day and age, unless you move out to the mountains and live like Little House on the Prairie, to
life goals.
I'd be there tomorrow, to truly live as clean as possible, right? So we do need to support our bodies, we do need to protect our immune systems, and we do need to to take it to that next level and be as natural as possible. Here's something else.
Bring the prairie to the city.
Totally. So here's something else that's just a little bit crazy too. So I was doing a lot of research this past week as I'm writing a website on not only food ingredients, right, which we're going to get deeper into each week, but also the ingredients that are going into natural supplements, right? Okay. So people are living in this mindset that, okay, I'm going to the health food store and I'm buying an expensive probiotic or an expensive something, calcium and magnesium, whatever they're buying what they believe to be the best, right? So I did a study on the top 10 probiotic products that are being sold on Amazon, and the sexiest labels that people are buying, and you know what two of the ingredients that ran through the common denominator of all those probiotics was?
Definitely sugar.
Sugar and yeast.
Oh, yeast.
All right, so I got a gut concern, right, let's say, and I've got a digestive issue. I'm taking a probiotic to introduce digestive flora and to course correct what's going on in my digestive system. Well, what feeds yeast more than anything? What is yeast addicted to? Sugar. Well, why in the hell would you put sugar in a probiotic supplement?
Well, the question people are going to have is, doesn't that probiotic bacteria need some sugar or yeast to keep it alive in the container? Or no?
Yes, but that means you're buying a crappy probiotic.
Oh. Because
if a probiotic's properly formulated, it's going to survive in the container from the manufacturer through the digestive system. So if you're using substandard, subpar ingredients, yeah, you have to back it up with something in order to survive. So if you're seeing sugar and yeast and fillers and preservatives going into a probiotic supplement, instantly the alarm bells should be going off saying, what am I paying for here? Right?
So what should the first ingredient be?
The first ingredient should be digestive enzymes.
There you go.
Right? Most people don't realize when they look at a nutritional label that the first ingredient is the one with the most content. Right? So if you're looking at a probiotic, or if you're looking at a vitamin, or if you're looking at sort of anything out there, whatever it may be, you got to look and see what that is. Right? These guys don't even have a nutritional label on their product.
Whoa.
That's Canada for you.
Oh yeah, I forget you're out there in Canada.
Yeah. So it's important that people understand what they're taking
Mm-hmm.
in their body, right?
Yeah.
And, really tearing into asking the small questions of what I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
with my health, right?
Oh yeah.
Because, your health doesn't start with a regiment or a program or a book or an exercise routine or, listening to a speaker or anything like that. Your health starts first and foremost right here, right? Because the most of anything that you're going to put into your body starts with what's going in your mouth.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And that's
So
the
we got
hardest
to,
part for most people. It's like they can't break away from their habits. I find it so ironic that during this pandemic, you have people so full of fear, putting on their triple masks, whatever it is, and they're lining out the door of McDonald's, right?
yeah,
Like, it just blows my mind.
you
Those
take
places should be closed during a pandemic.
so you take a piece of fruit and you put it on your counter. Within a few days, you're going to have the fruit flies, you're going to have the bugs. That piece of fruit is absolutely loved um, by natural things that are going to absorb it and put it to use, right? You take that McDonald's hamburger, you stick it on the shelf for 2 months, not a bug has gone near it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, that's one thing that you and I should do is we should come up with the bug test, right? Where we take food and we put it on the counter and
Yeah.
we say, okay, which ones are the bugs going to eat,
Yeah.
right? Because if the bugs ain't going to eat it, and think about the bugs for a second as digestive flora,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Because the digestive flora in our body is enzymes, i.e. bugs, that are breaking the stuff down for our body to use it. So if the bugs ain't eating it, then our body ain't eating it, and the digestive flora in our body isn't eating it. So we're giving our body essentially nothing.
Mm-hmm.
We're giving it flavor and substance.
Yeah. And that's why you want the foods that self-digest quicker, but it's not as cost effective because people end up throwing half of it out because they don't eat it all. But when my husband was looking into gut health, it was like, oh, papayas and pears, like those are like some of the common fruits that are good for the digestive system. And we noticed, like, when you order that fruit, like it goes, like, it gets ripe for a day and then it just self digests super quickly, compared to like an apple or all the other fruits. So it's like, oh, the stuff that rots the quickest is usually the healthiest because it has all that probiotic bacteria or self digestive enzymes that help your body not have to do all the work.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. And one of the common things that we'll hear from people is I can't afford to eat healthy, right? Because you can pick this up for $2 and a couple bucks for a pound of hamburger, and you got dinner on the table for $10, right? And that's a fair argument because eating healthy today is more expensive than eating this today, right? But I rebuke that. If we look at things over, it's like a savings account. If we look at things over the course of time, right? What's this going to cost you in the future? What are those visits to the doctor going to cost you? What is a lifetime of potential enslavement to pharmaceutical applications going to cost you, right? So if you take that and look at over the course of a number of years, it was probably cheaper to eat healthy in the first place, eat a little bit less, than become enslaved to a system that's going to cost you more money down the road.
Yeah. It's expensive. There's people losing limbs out there, that's
Right.
pretty expensive.
Well, exactly. And not only it from a dollars and cents standpoint today, but just a loss in quality of life,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
How is silicone dioxide, sugar, and dysprosium phosphate going to increase my quality of life?
Mm.
Probably not.
Nope. And people prone to infection, all that stuff feeds that infection. That's why it's harder for people to get rid of it. And they end up with those, issues of.
Right. So we talk about this impulsive communication going, from our gut to our brain, right? And the gut, is the second brain, and there's been a lot of books written about that. And David Perlmutter's, the leading expert today on understanding the microbiome and the gut-brain connection, right? The happiness that's created here triggers here. This creates happy brain waves to the head. So did you know that yeast, right, is more addictive to the body than cocaine?
Oh, wow.
So when we talk to women about giving up the wine, or we talk to people about giving up the foods that we run to our counters to get, right? It's not very often that we're going to run to the refrigerator and grab an apple to trigger a nice, happy sensation. But we're gonna
peanut butter does it for me.
right. But we're gonna grab that chocolate bar. We're gonna grab that piece of beef jerky. We're gonna grab something that's carbs. We're gonna grab something that gives us that feeling of satisfaction and joy, right? And that feeling that we're getting, or that craving that we're getting, is that yeast addiction that's saying, feed me, feed me, feed me. Right? So these foods and these ingredients in these foods have essentially been designed to trigger these emotional responses, which is why when we go to the grocery store, we kind of move towards that sensational, feeding, happy spot of shit food. Sorry for my language again, but it's
good.
It's kind of what it's what's happening, right?
Yeah. Wow. It's crazy. But those signals shift, right? Like I experienced it when I shifted my diet, where I used to be like, I ate all the junk, all the bad stuff. And like, I was like, never would I think there would be a day where I didn't crave this and I craved a salad. And, over a course of time, when you're disciplined, your body, that whole palate cleanses those chemicals that hijacked your brain, those are gone. And then you can shift into better choices. But again, it takes consistency and going through that struggle in the beginning, which most people at the first sign of discomfort, they're out.
It's hard because, if somebody goes to quit smoking or quit drinking or quit a habit that has, that comes with that addictive personality, you're going to go through those responses of, shedding that addiction, right? And unfortunately, the food and the things that taste great create that addiction, and there's headaches and tiredness and and these things, and it's basically it's that yeast in your body, it's your system that's become so addicted to those chemicals that it's crying out and causing pain so that you'll feed it. And we as people have been duped and deceived so immensely. It's, unless we really stand up for our own individual health and take control, the TV commercials, the radio commercials, the billboards, the advertisements that trigger these sensations of want, need, and desire, they're going to keep coming at us because these companies want us to buy their products, right? And there's a whole other conversation, is if these companies are hand in hand saying, hey, I'll make them sick if you give them this, Like that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But when you stand back and take a look at it, it makes you wonder,
Oh yeah.
right?
It each piece of truth and revelation has led me to a crazier like rabbit hole where I'm like, how did I end up here? But
Oh,
when you compile all the data, it's like, whoa, like totally was over my head for so many years. And now that's my whole journey with my husband, and the way the doctors guided us and was just like never gave us any of the solutions that we found that actually worked, you know? So it was just the information's there, but it's presented as crazy. And so it takes a long journey, and usually some type of intrinsic motivation, which is usually a diagnosis or something along those lines, where you have to figure it out for yourself, because otherwise there's consequences that are about to come. But for the average person that doesn't have that yet, they have no desire to go down that rabbit hole. And people that have gone down that rabbit hole and try and share some of the wisdoms, they're seen as crazy or conspiracy theorists or whatever it is, you know?
totally,
So
totally. And
that's
we
been
can,
my question. Like, how do we battle, like, how do we break through that barrier, you know?
I think we just present the information from a common sense standpoint. Like, I can go so far down the rabbit hole with you on this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if, but there's no sense in going down a rabbit hole unless we first start to just let's look at the common sense,
Mm-hmm.
easy to understand. You peel back that first layer of the onion
Mm-hmm.
into what people aren't thinking about, right? And unfortunately, it's sad because we're both casualties of it as well, right?
Yeah.
Is we live in a world that's moving so fast, and seldom do we have that time to just kind of take a moment and check out for a minute and just think about these things, right? People are busy with kids, they're busy with grandkids, they're busy with work. Like, we live in a very busy, a very informational society where things are coming at us
Mm-hmm.
faster and more frequently than they ever have, right? And you and I are lucky that we're actually just taking a check out for a few minutes to look at just kind of thinking for a moment, right? And if we can use our checkout time that we're doing to think about these things to give people the opportunity for their checkout time, or at least inspire or educate on what we're learning, hopefully we can help check some boxes for people or turn some light bulbs on, or just bring that information to somebody that didn't have that time to check out, right? And hopefully they like the message that we're presenting in a way that makes sense, right? And we're just going to present it raw. We're going to make mistakes. We don't know everything, but we're coming from this place of curiosity where let's learn and let's understand and figure out how we put these pieces together. And then as we go through this discovery of self, and hopefully it makes some difference for some other people's lives as well, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I think that's part of the advantage, is we're so close to that. Like, people that have already gone down that rabbit hole for years, like they're in the middle of it, where they've lost that connection to what it was like to be on the other side. And so, I mean, for me, I'm just over 4 years into this journey. So I'm very fairly new, where I'm like, I remember what I used to think prior to all of this. And I remember how I would have judged something like this prior to all of this. So I think having that awareness of where people are and where they can be is to our advantage, and that we're kind of normal people, right? Because everyone's a doctor, and now it's just kind of like nobody knows, like people just use that as a label to try and get, prestige
Accolades.
potential. Like, they don't always know what they're doing. So being like a normal person and just being humble about the content, just like, we don't know it all. Honestly, nobody knows it all, but we're here with our own personal journeys and personal truths, which tie into other similar truths that people have experienced. And we're here compiling the data and posing those questions and answering them for ourselves, and hopefully inspiring other people to do the same. And so, yeah, I kind of like that just common background. We're motivated more by like love and service to the world versus like it was our job title, you know?
Totally.
So,
Totally. And I'm never going to profess to be an expert
yeah.
or a doctor or a nutritionalist or anything. I'm just a dad,
Mhm.
you know, with two kids and two step kids. And I've beat the living tar out of my body for 40 years, you know, and got diabetes as a result of it, you know, had sicknesses, you know, had these things. So I'd say, you know, for the average person, I'm an average person, right? You know, you're a mom, a wife, raising a family, has a husband, you know, with type 1 diabetes. Like we're not victims here of anything,
Yeah.
right? We're just waking up to getting a better understanding of how things are working around us, right?
Mhm.
And you know, when we go back to the foods for a second, no food company, I'm going to put the natural foods aside here for a second.
Mhm.
The mainstream grocery store brands that are on our television sets, on the billboards, on the radios, you know, all this kind of stuff for us to buy. None of them ever celebrate the ingredients. They celebrate the feeling, they celebrate the happiness, they celebrate the emotion that's created by their foods.
Mhm.
Well, why is that? Because they don't offer anything other than that.
Oh yeah.
Right? And you know, so we've got a really good place to really tear into this. Like what we're talking about here is a great opening to the rabbit holes we can go down, or the stories of discovery that we can go down, and the education that we can provide as we learn the education ourselves.
Mhm.
Right? And if we keep it simple and we keep it real, right, as to just basing it on factual, you know, information, and not I feel this about that or I feel this about that.
Mhm.
We take the feeling, emotional decision making out of it and just hit it at the raw core. This is like, okay, I feel these ingredients suck, right?
Yeah.
Well, somebody may feel that they feel good,
Mhm.
right? So now I've got into a potential position where we can argue about that. I
Mhm.
don't want to argue with anybody. I just want to say, here's what's in it. Here's what's being sold to you.
Mhm.
Here's what these things do. Right. And if somebody disagrees with that, they're more than welcome to go on the internet and search those ingredients and find out where they're healthy, and come back to us and say, hey, you know, modified, dried cheddar and blue cheese lactic acid and calcium, actually, I found good healing, positive benefits for the body. Bring it on.
I love
Right?
it. There's no room for debate. Like,
Yeah.
I
Like
love it because that's
totally.
what the internet is full of. Everyone in their opinions. But when you
Right.
present it in that way, it's like really no room for debate. It's like, oh, okay.
And
Those are all
we're gonna go and research this information, not in some password protected environment or not in some ecosystem that nobody has access to. We go straight to what's the first thing that most people do nowadays when they're looking for information? They go to
Google.
Google, right? All right. So let's go to Google and let's just see, because the other thing is, and I know this for a fact, is Google is highly funded by big pharma, and Google will suppress natural botanicals and natural health, right? That's their algorithm set to do that. I'm not picking on Google right now, but it's the truth. right? So let's just see. I don't even know how to say this word. And I'm going to have to get glasses. Maltodextrin. All right.
Sugar.
White powder made from corn, rice, potato starch, and wheat. Even though it comes from plants, it's highly processed to make it. First, the starches are cooked, then acids or enzymes such as heat-stable bacteria, alpha malase, are added to break it down further. Sounds pretty natural to me. Side effects, and I'm just right here on the front page of Google. That's the description. People also ask side effects may include allergic reactions, weight gain, gas, flatulence, and bloating. Maltodextrin may also cause a rash or skin irritation, asthma, cramping, difficulty breathing. Awesome.
Wow.
Awesome. So I just had dinner. That's what I get to look forward to.
Yeah.
Right? So if we can just help people wake up to just make that question that, you know what, maybe I'm not going to make this for dinner tonight.
Yeah.
And maybe tonight I'm going to put that on the shelf and just think of something a little bit better. Mm-hmm. Then we've just taken a little bit of workload off the immune system, a little bit of workload off the digestive system, and just giving people an understanding of what that is.
Yeah, and with that product specifically, like it's rice, right? Like you can buy straight up rice, you know, without all that stuff in it, which is, you know, again, the way the grains are stored, there's, you know, a whole other conversation with that, but at least it's eliminating the maltodextrose, whatever it is, the sucrose, the
Totally.
whatever chemicals that are in there, at least eliminating some of the agitation so it doesn't all like compound in your system all at once. So like you have a box of rice, but I know you can also just buy a box of grains, just organic brown rice, right? And when you look at the ingredient, it's brown rice. So
totally. So you do that, fry up some hamburger or fry up some chicken, take some natural herbs, you're going to get something close to this. And yes, the meat isn't optimal nowadays. The chicken isn't optimal, but if you're going to be eating that chicken and that meat anyways, right? You make it with natural brown rice, you make it with natural herbs. At the very least, you cut all this other crap out.
Yeah.
So it's a start and it's a step forward.
Yeah.
Right. And it's
the process of elimination over time,
totally,
right?
Totally. And then you just slowly chip away at it, you know, because, you know, people that try to make rapid transformation overnight, it's not going to happen. We're just going to fall back into our, you know, into our ways of doing it. So it's just one smart decision each day will help curb a lifestyle.
Well, and some of those people get hyper detoxing symptoms. Like when you're getting rid of everything at once, it is sometimes a not so pleasant experience. Like the unpleasantness on like of just having to make the change, but then also like the detoxing. Like think of an addict, right? They go through a detox, and it's similar depending on how toxic the person is. Some people have like a similar reaction where they kind of feel sick for a period of time while they're getting all that junk out of their system. So
well, and it's the gut communicating with the brain saying, where did all this happiness that you were feeding me go?
Yeah, bring it back. We want more.
Bring it back. It's the yeast fighting saying, feed me, feed me, feed me. It's those happy thought enzymes that we've been feeding through the crap that we've been feeding it, just crying out for help. I need more crap. I need more crap. Please feed me. Right? These vegetables, these carrots, these broccolis, they're not giving it to me. Like I need the junk. And it's hard. Like it's not an easy thing to overcome.
Oh yeah. And then even as a parent, we feed our kids what we think they're gonna like, you know. So like
we feed them to shut them up.
Yeah, and that's true. Where I'm like, man, I'm so glad I learned what I learned when I learned it, because I had just had my first child. I'm like, oh, I
Yeah,
can raise her on, fruit and vegetables, and like they eat their broccoli now without you with ease. They request it. So I'm like, wow, this is amazing. It can be done. We just have to, you know, know the things a little bit sooner.
totally. Totally. And that, that's another thing that we should look at too is, the baby foods and the foods that the kids are getting from an early age. And we're not doing this to pick on parents. Like, we're not doing this that if people are feeding their families this stuff, like, this isn't a witch hunt.
Yeah.
This is just us going through our discovery to understand these things and just ask the question,
Mm.
right?
Oh yeah.
Because we're just as guilty as charged at eating and feeding and using these things on a daily basis. So I never want to come across, or have you and I come across, in a spirit that of judgment or
Yeah.
anything like that, because
Oh yeah.
that's not what this is about. It's just about learning and understanding, and just providing information that we learn, and people can do whatever they want with the information. They can accept it, they can reject it, and with this world that we're living in today, it's unfortunate that, I'm not even going to say most people, I'm going to say it's a narrative and a directive that's kind of being forced upon us. But having that agree to disagree
Mm.
ability is being wiped out,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
And our the way that things are being promoted to us, um if you don't agree with somebody on their agenda or anything, then you can't be friends.
Mhm.
We're all humans, we're all entitled to think and believe and go in a direction that we feel best for ourselves.
Yeah.
And there's going to be things that you and I don't agree on as we go through this journey as well,
Mhm.
right? That's great.
Yeah.
We can talk about it. I can learn about where you're coming from on your side of something, you learn where I'm coming from on my side of it.
Oh yeah.
We can agree to disagree, but it doesn't stop us from being friends and moving forward.
Mhm.
And in fact, it's something that we can grow stronger from, because maybe you're coming at it from a viewpoint that I haven't thought of, or vice versa. It's how we learn and how we grow,
Oh yeah.
right?
That's what helped me gain more clarity in everything I was researching, was like, look at the opposite side that says the opposite thing, right? Because you have two different stories that are claiming to be true. And when you read both sides, there's always some overlap. And so it's
Mhm.
like, oh, I was like, that overlap is absolute truth. And then the other stuff is like, well, it depends on certain varying factors and stuff. So, yeah, the spirit of not being narrow-minded, right? And looking at all the objectives. And when you've gone through that whole narrative, both sides, then you can come to a deeper understanding of how each side got there, and then make your own opinion or assumption based on all the data. So yeah.
And if you take the opinion and understand what's driving the opinion,
That's true. Yeah.
right? And that's where is you and I go through this journey with what we're doing here. If we just base the opinion on fact, it takes the emotion out of the opinion,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So it takes the I believe, it takes the my opinion, it takes all of the potential ego
Mm-hmm.
out of the conversation to base it on foundation,
Yes.
right? And then what you do going forward with that foundation is your right to do so. But at least, like, there's this whole political, left side, right side of things. We won't get into that. Um, but, but,
Oh, that's a big tangent right there.
but if we just take it down right to, you know, right to the baseline, and then we build up from the baseline, then we can also build an opinion on hopefully what is the rock, and not a sandy viewpoint to something. Right? So if you and I take that mindset in everything that we explore and everything that we talk about and everything we do with this, then we're always coming back to a common ground.
I love it.
And I think we can help educate a lot of people with this, and positively influence some lives, which is all we want to do.
Yes, I am so excited about this. Like, it's just I've been wanting to get this stuff out, like like how you mentioned, it's just like, we're sitting on all this information at such a pivotal time in our world, right? Like, the world needs to know about this, about how to educate themselves, right? And how to have that moment of revelation where they can just flip the script in this whole pandemic, and
Totally.
the way the fear is trying to navigate things to a certain way, So I'm just like, all right, now's the time. This is a divine connection right here, and I'm ready to hit the ground running. Let's go.
Sure. And that's the other cool part to this is there's so many people taking to Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and all this kind of stuff, building a following based on their
Opinions, yep.
and unfortunately, there's the conservative side of opinions, there's the non-conservative side of opinions, but it boils down to opinions. Right? I feel this is going to happen, that's going to happen, so and so saying this. Like, if we stay just raw and rooted to the truth and the facts, then at least we know we're presenting something as real as we possibly can.
Yeah.
And there's going to be subjects that we cover as we go forward that may be a little bit slippery as far as where those goes.
Yeah.
I would love to do a piece on the creation of big pharma and what that looked like. And I've written papers on it and studied it heavily. That will come, if we look at how we're moving forward with this, and we're properly going to educate people, then we need to educate them on the facts, right? Like, what led the decisions to become what we live with today. And I don't want to present that as, we've got a bone to pick with big pharma, or we've got a mission or a mandate to seek and destroy any sort of body that's out there. No. Let's just look at the facts on how they rolled out, and we'll touch base on this in, as we go forward. But if we look at what led the Rockefellers to create big pharma, what they did with the Flexner report, like, we'll put it together in a piece that's educational, informative, not damning and destructive. But here it is. Here are the facts, and people can do with what they want. But that's really important to understand the transitional period for people, because if we're going to tear into a natural discussion, and we're going to tear into what switched the consumer mindset from growing gardens, the marketplace mentality as it used to be, even to our grandparents' generation, right? Where it was a lot more farm to plate, right? Well, what led to that transition? What was the convenience factor? What was the financial motivators to change our whole society's way of living? So if we explore that a little bit, we'll realize why we went from nice healthy meal to melodroxatonin.
The words
Sorry
you
to quick on hamburger helper, but it's just what I've got in front of me here today. So if we explore these things and then we understand what the root and the creation process of what got us here today, then we're just opening eyes, right? And creating a good narrative and a good directive of understanding.
I love it.
So,
Oh man, that big pharma, I'm aware of it. I haven't dug into all the details and the research of it. So I'm very curious. Like, I'm excited to learn from you about all of this, like the more finer details of it. I know like the basic big picture.
yeah. And before we present that case, let's say, or before we present that, because I never want to bring forth information or start really diving head deep into a subject until we've kind of got our talking points on it, and we're like, okay, here's what happened, here's the dates, here's the who, here's the why, so that we're presenting it in the most factual way that we can. You know, I don't want to bring in an I think and I feel this happened into the discussion on those kind of subjects. Because I wouldn't want it done to me. And even though personally I'm not a big fan of those institutions, I want to make sure that what we present to anybody that watches anything that we do, I want to make sure that we present it in the best form possible to them, so that we're not misleading somebody with information. It's just, it's like right back from the box here. Here's what's in the box. Right? You pick up that box, you're reading the same ingredients as I am, so I can't manipulate what my discussion is going to be around talking about this subject.
And so it's more rooted around coming from a place of love instead of a place of hate, right? Like you hate this so much that you want to, bash it, versus like, well, we just love sharing the information that's going to empower people, where we're not trying to bash anything, but take what you will with this information, form your own opinion about that. But I'm with you 100%. So,
and it anchors me,
is where I come from. Even when I talked about football, I wouldn't really hate on the other teams. I'm just like, well, I just want my team to beat this other team, but they're nice guys too.
And it can anger you, what we find, and there's going to be a lot of things that we find that anger us, but there's a difference between anger out of compassion than anger out of hate. Right. And like, I was reading on soap ingredients the other day as I was writing a website on soaps. So I'll just bring it up. We got a couple more minutes, don't we?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you go to the grocery store, right? And this is kind of what drives a little bit of the passion behind this as well. Is I don't believe that anybody gets up in the morning. I don't believe any mom or any dad gets up in the morning and goes to the grocery store or plans dinner or plans life with the intention on causing harm. I don't believe that whatsoever. I don't believe that we're programmed to do that. I believe that it's, as a parent and as a husband and even a friend, the last thing I'm going to do is invite somebody over to my home for dinner and think, I'm poisoning them, or I'm putting something harmful into their body. We're just not wired that way, right? So we get up, we plan our meals for the day, or we plan our meals for the week, and we do what feels right for our family. So you go to the grocery store, you buy soap for your family, for your kids and everything. You buy the sexy looking box of soap because that's the one that catches your eye, and it may say the word natural on it. So you're purchasing that natural bar of soap. Well, the only thing natural about that natural bar of soap is the word natural. Um, and that's a whole other discussion. Um, so, so you bring that home, because we were talking about the foods earlier, right? And the what's going into our digestive system.
Yeah.
But little do people even, and this is back to that, taking a minute to check out and think and understand, well, our skin is our largest biggest organ on our body. So not only is it so apparent of what we're putting in through our mouth and into our digestive system, but the things that we put on our skin, our skin is 1,000 times the size of our stomach, right? And our skin is designed to absorb. So whatever we put on our skin, we are bringing into our body, right? Creating immune response and creating these different things. So here's just some common ingredients in soaps. Well, we picked on foods a few minutes ago.
Oh, yeah.
Butylated hydroxyanisole and butylated hydroxytoluene. And please forgive me if I say these things wrong. Synthetic antioxidants that are used to extend the product shelf line are carcinogens, hormone disruptors, and may even cause liver damage.
Ooh.
Okay, there's one. Dioxin, a chemical some think is good for the skin, is derived from coconut. However, due to over-processing, it's a toxic chemical that can adversely impact kidney, brain, and liver function.
Crazy.
Awesome. Formaldehyde, commonly used to preserve beauty products. Carcinogen, was linked to asthma, neuropathy, developmental toxicity. All right, so that comes across in Coroutine 15, DMDH, hydration. Like they relabel it in other sort of names to throw you off the pace, right? Camidorphalbutene is a synthetic detergent and substance that increases spreading of wetting properties, right? So that's the lathering side of soap. Used, for the foaming action. Found in a number of hygiene products, used to prevent the growth of bacteria and mold, hormone disruptors, and disrupt the important hormone functions in the body. List goes on.
I believe it.
Sodium lauryl sulfate, right? Triggers skin irritation and allergies, rashes. So we're just blindly buying these products, thinking we're doing something good, and causing the concerns that we're talking about.
Oh, yeah. And even so, the soap, it's an added thing, but even the water, like the water as you're showering, bathing, whatever it is, like there's stuff in the water too. And so my husband, he just had a recent story about that where we haven't gotten those filters yet, but like parent life, where you stop taking showers for a few days in a row or whatever, because he had stopped using soap or was using just the clean soaps. But then he kind of like had a block where he wasn't even showering, and he had this like little rash that he was trying to get rid of. And like during that span of not showering is when it went away, and we're just like, man, like it was the water.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna have to get one of those filters, I guess.
Yeah, and it's just feeding the rash, the bacteria, the fungus, whatever's creating, that symptom on the body, right?
Yeah. So that goes to the whole everything you can control. Like it's ideal to be aware of what you control and try and minimize those things, because there's some things that are a lot harder to control, like your water supply or, like the air supply and all of those things, where it's like what you can do can go a long way. And it'll never be perfect, but hey, at least you can do what you can do.
Well, I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this.
Oh yeah, I'm excited.
And it's just inspiring to just go on this journey of
Yeah.
learning and understanding, right? And not knowing all the answers and not being an expert or a professional, we're just going to take this through the layman's eyes of understanding and learning with the information that's in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like how this went?
Oh, totally. Like it was really good to get a glimpse of the feel and flow of things. Cause again, it's like we recently just met. I don't really know too much about you and your style and whatever, but I know, you have this brilliant mind and all this, information behind you. So yeah, it was good to feel how our back and forth would go. So for
Right.
any other topics, like what I see is you kind of have this archive of content already ready to go. So I see myself as kind of like I've already done my own separate tangent of stuff that a lot of it overlaps with you, where I'll have a similar base of understanding or a general understanding of it, where I can pose some of those questions that someone watching who's done some research, just like the probiotic stuff, like, well, but isn't that to feed the bacteria? So I can pose some of those questions that people might have to kind of discredit, or like, I'm not discredit, but like to a question that would need to be answered by someone watching, like I can
Right.
pose some of those questions as someone who either knows some of it or needs to learn more, since you've had more experience gathering the data. So I can be that question person, and maybe like, I've got a little different energy than you. I'm kind of like a hype girl over here, like.
Well, and a lot of it for me has essentially just come from being in the trenches every day and listening to people, and then listening to the common denominators of what people say, right? And then, so in my early life, and it's funny, like if we look at where life brings us and sort of the tools that life gives us as a result of an apprenticeship of life, right? Just one second here. So when I first graduated high school, I went to cooking school and got my chef's papers.
Nice.
So that taught me how to cook, but time management more than anything. It taught me amazing time management, right? Then I had a young family, and it's really hard to raise a young family on a cook's wage, right? So I left that and worked hard and got my apprenticeship as an automotive mechanic, and worked at that for 10 years, 15 years. And at the same time, I was a firefighter for 18 years. So all of these different occupations or journeys in life have given a different skill set, right? Like if I can contribute one big one from my years of firefighting, it would be being able to thrive in a moment of extreme pressure and stress, right? Because when you're at a tragic scene and there's a lot of not good things happening around you, and I was lucky to have some really good mentorship through those years. And people are going to gravitate towards strength and calmness, right? So if I'm at a tragic automobile accident or a house fire or something that's just a brutal situation, right? If I'm coming across from a heightened sense and fear and anxiety as a leader, then the people around me, not only the people that are casualties of the crappy situation, but the people that are below me are going to pick on that, and they're going to kind of take it to the next level. Right. So I just learned through those years to take that deep breath and actually find a place to be at my absolute calmest place in the most tragic of situations. Right. So now when I look at it, you know, in business that I'm involved with, you know, anybody that's in business can relate that the last 12 months have been some of the most tumultuous months that we've ever been through in our lives in business. Do I run around, you know, jumping up and down, the sky's falling, you know, it's all coming to an end? No, because my staff would pick up on that. Everybody I'm surrounded with would pick up on that. And even though that I'm under probably more stress than I've ever been in my life, I got to bring it down and just be as evenly as possible. So, you know, life has sort of given me this apprenticeship of you know, great times, going through tragic times, and then, you know, in my years of business and managing businesses and having my own businesses, just really kind of getting that understanding, right? And then so in the last, I guess it's been 5 years that I've really been heavily in the health industry, you know, in the health supplement industry, for that matter. When I got into this, I didn't have a clue, right? I just, through my years of doing all these things that I've done and, you know, had other opportunities and stuff, I went to university and got a degree in human resource management. I got a degree in, you know, as a certified executive coach. I was the youngest executive coach in North America, and done a lot of really cool things, right? So when I got into the marketing space, and then especially into the supplement space, I was as green can be, right? And when I first started with silver, for instance, you know, this is going back, once again, 5 or 6 years now, is I was brought in by a company to build their marketing for silver. And nobody had ever marketed silver really heavily mainstream before. I didn't know the first thing about it, but, you know, we researched it, created a marketing program around it, and took it to market. And are you still okay for a couple more minutes?
Oh yeah, totally. No, I'm soaking it all in. I'm good.
So we were promoting that brand of silver, and we just launched it. I didn't know the first thing about it other than what the doctors had taught me and the scientists had talked to me, and, you know, what the sort of the crash course of 6 months of building all that information had taught me. And I remember the very first day we started marketing this, and, you know, I got into the internet space, I guess it was 10 years ago, and have done, you know, some pretty cool things, and seen some huge wins, you know, created by people in the internet space, and been a part of a few of them. So anyways, started marketing silver. The very first day, I remember looking into our customer management system on the back end. So whenever somebody places an order online, that order is captured, and, you know, the company and the customer service team and everybody can see that customer's information, right? That's how people are engaged with. So in the back of our system, we had this customer that was trying to buy, and it just kept on showing up as a decline, which means her credit card wasn't processing. So seeing 5 or 6 declines in the back end, I'm like, man, this person wants the product, right? Like, our messaging is relating to them. So I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to pick up the phone and phone this person. And I called, and it was a lady in her early 50s, and she was 8 weeks away from kidney transplants, and she was sick. And she's like, Doug, I've lived a healthy lifestyle. Like I've done the best that I can do to be the best. You know, she was the high school cheerleader. She had a number of kids, like just, and she had had a surgery which left her with sepsis, which was sort of what was causing the failure of her kidneys. She's like, Doug, I don't want to lose my kidneys. And I've tried everything. I've tried every medical procedure. I've tried everything natural. Like I have tried everything. I've thrown hundreds of thousands of dollars at my condition to not, you know, go through this. And she says, will this product help me? Then my first day, I'm like I said, I only know one thing. And I said, I'm always going to be honest, you know, with people. I said, I don't know what this is going to do for you. I said, and I told her, I said, this is my first day doing this, and this is kind of who I am and what I am. I said, the only thing that I do know, that what's been told to me by the scientists, the doctors, and the research, because I don't want to make a healing, treating, or curing claim to somebody, especially, well, anybody, but you know, when you're talking to somebody that's that far down the rabbit hole of having an issue.
Yeah.
So I said, the only thing I know is it can't hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's the only honest answer I can give you. I said, and she says, okay. She says, I want to try it. And so I tried processing her credit card. Didn't work. We found out what the problem was later. It was, you know, just a button that we didn't check when we were setting things up. But anyways, so I said to her, I said, I can't get your credit card to process. So I said, you know what? I said, our lack of being able to process your order shouldn't hold you up from being able to get the product. So I said, I'm going to send you 3 months worth of product. It's on me. Let's just see if this helps. I said, you've tried everything else. We know it's not going to hurt you. Let's just see. I said, I want to know for myself if it works too. So sent her 3 months worth of products. And each week I'd get a phone call or a text message or something from her, just kind of giving me how she was doing. And the first message I got was, hey, Doug, my fever broke. Like I'm feeling better. And then the next message was, you know, hey, I got outside and I fed the animals today. Like I haven't done this for so long. Like I'm not couch bound. I'm not sick. And these messages kind of came sporadically, you know, over the course of the next month or so. And I remember it was like week number 7. And I get this message, this text message, it said, Doug, period, we need to talk. And instantly I'm like, oh crap, like maybe it didn't work out so good. Like, so I call her, and she's just sobbing on the other end of the phone. She's like, Doug, she says, I just came out of my pre-op and they've canceled my surgery and given me a clean bill of health. And it was that moment that I realized that we were sitting on something pretty special, right? You know, this age-old technology that had been around for thousands of years, that through, you know, modern science and really, really smart people had taken this older technology and turned it into something that nobody else had before, right? Which is what we use together today. And that's, you know, that'll be a discussion for another time too. So over the last few years, that opened up the window for me to travel all around North America and literally talk to thousands upon thousands of people on their health concerns and their issues and their sicknesses. And just hearing those stories of pain, you know, that come from people. And spent a lot of time working with women with yeast and candida and bacterial vaginosis problems, to skin conditions, to gut conditions, like kind of all of it.
Mhm.
So I had this great opportunity, like I say, just to travel and be at different medical conferences and natural healing conferences and natural energy conferences and naturopathics, and just really kind of get into that homeopathic natural side of the health industry, and talking to people about the products, or just, I don't ever want to come across as a salesperson for something. I want to make sure that what we're doing is actually beneficial and helping somebody, right? And I just was fortunate enough to be placed in a position and grow with the product as the science grew with that product, to a point where I've seen thousands and thousands of lives positively impacted, right? To a point where not one person has ever told me that this didn't work for them. So do I believe? Yeah. And do I believe in natural healing? Totally, because I've experienced it. It hasn't been so and so told me that they feel better, or like everything I've got is firsthand. People sending me pictures of their hands and their arms that are just covered in rashes, and they don't know what to do. They've tried everything. And unfortunately, I'm not allowed to talk about this stuff, right? Because I could be healing, treating, or curing something. But I'm just speaking from the heart here for a minute, right? I've seen those people that have been suffering from those issues for years and years and years, and it's held their lives back, to sending me pictures a week or two later going, look at, I'm clear, right? I remember, sorry if I'm rambling here.
Oh no, I love this stuff. We're talking testimonials.
I remember being in Alabama 2 years ago, and we spoke to this group of, I think it was like 150 or 200 women, and they'd all packed into this restaurant, and me and my partner were the only two males in the whole room, and it was a little intimidating at first. And we were in Huntsville, Alabama, or sorry, no, flew into Huntsville. We did the presentation in Muscle Shoals. I was excited to be in Muscle Shoals because that was like Music Central. But so we did this presentation to this large audience of women, and just talking to them about their lady parts and yeast and bacteria. And I was probably redder during that whole thing than my wall behind me, but it was fun. And so we did the presentation for about an hour, and then just talking to them. And then afterwards, we would always stick around at any presentation we did until the last person had their question answered, right? And sometimes we'd present for an hour and stay for 4.
Wow.
Because we wanted to make sure that everybody that attended went home with their question answered, right? So I remember, and we were doing this like mingle thing afterwards, so people could just have a little bit more intimate time of asking their questions. But I was standing around this group of like 5 women, and the biggest, burliest, toughest woman that I'd ever seen in my life. Like, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'3" and larger than most people, right? This lady, she was the friendly giant. Like, she was just huge. And she comes up to me and she says, Doug, my friend, she hasn't been able to have sex for 3 years. And she started to tell me all of this information about her friends' lady parts that I'm just not going to repeat here. So I looked at her and I said, so you've been suffering from this problem for a number of years, eh? And like, she just went white, because it wasn't her friend. She just wanted to third party or third person. It's always easier when it's your friend. So, here's a big, tough lady that had the world in her hands, was suffering from the most intimate problem that affects 80% of women out there nowadays. Like this isn't just a problem that was hers. I've thousands and thousands of women I've talked to about the effects of having lady parts, right? Cool, damp, warm, moist area that
Delicate balance.
does this all the time. So anyways, talk to this lady, had her try product, and I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks later, and she phoned me, and like I say, here's a big, tough, strong person, and just brought down from here to here, if you know what I'm saying. And she says, Doug, she says, I didn't believe a thing you told me when you spoke. I thought you guys were selling snake oil and everything you were throwing at me was BS. But my friends were trying it, and we were all in sort of the group, and I figured, what the heck. She says, I just had sex with my husband for the first time in 3 years last night. And I'm feeling rejuvenated. I'm feeling natural. And I can tell you stories like this all day long. And it just brings you to a whole other level when you get to be a part of that in somebody's lives, right? And you create a friendship and you create a bond with those people that can't be broken, right? And so to be a part of that, and in what we're doing here, yeah, I'm no medical expert, and I don't want to profess to be at all, or lead somebody down the wrong road, or give somebody improper information. But I will share what I've seen. I will share the truth. And I honestly do want to make a difference in somebody's lives, right? So kind of bringing that back home into where I was going with this is, in the thousands of people I've been in front of, or spoken to, or had intimate discussions with, the mechanical mind, the curiosity mind, the coach mind, the firefighter mind in me is always trying to figure out what makes something work, right? Like, what's that cause and effect, right? What created this? So as I was having those conversations with people, to me, it was just stacking up cause and effect, right? And I don't read diet books. I don't read health books. I don't read any of that kind of stuff. Like, it's just not me. So I'm not going to pretend to be that person that I'm not, right? Because I'm just not going to be authentic if I do. But it was listening to the common denominators with people that essentially led me to this discovery of why you and I have come together and why we're here today, right? And that's the diet, that's the lifestyle. It's all of these things that people write books about, but we're living, breathing, sleeping, living it every day in what we're doing, right? So the discussions that you and I are going to be having going forward, and the information that we're going to be bringing to people, isn't something that we learned in a textbook, or we're not going to regurgitate Dr. So-and-so's information that we read in a book and we think it's going to be viable for an audience to watch. Anybody can do that. I want to just bring it home, and bring it home simply, as stupidly as I may sound at times, but just be able to really truly just be authentic in who we are and what we're bringing to people based on what we're learning, not what we're reading or what we're, digesting on somebody else's YouTube channel or their Facebook show or whatever it is. This is what we're learning as we go through our process, and hopefully people will want to join us for this journey, and hopefully what we're saying speaks to somebody's heart, that this helps inspire them to be a part of this.
Wow. That's powerful. It's all about the application in people's lives, right? You can just read books, you can reiterate stuff, but if you're not applying it and seeing the examples, what's it all for? I'm guilty of being the person that reads all the books and does, but I still do all the things. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's just so powerful. And that really just shows our heart here. Like, we are ready to just collaborate with everybody here. Like, we're on this journey together. We're making a case for health. That is just finding those common denominators and presenting them simply and stupidly, as Doug said. So that'll be our motto.
Well, it's just keep it real.
Yeah.
Right. And, I got a bazillion books over here. I got books sent to me all the time. And I don't know, I don't like reading. It's just a simple. It's not that I don't find it interesting.
And you're the one with all the testimonies and common denominators of anecdotal data from people's personal stories. And I read all the books and have my husband's story. So
Right.
It's a good balance.
Yeah. So it's just, maybe what we do at the end of this one day is we get, months down the road of doing these interviews, we relook at all the recordings and say, you know what, within this process, we wrote a book too. Who knows where this is going to go? Yeah, but if each week or each show that we do or each whatever that we're doing inspires us for what the next one is going to be, or inspires somebody to reach out with a question, let's create a tribe of people that just want to learn stuff, and this isn't just all about you and me. Yeah. It's about the people that are watching, that want to learn, that want to kind of join us for this journey, right? So I'm the sorry, just a sec. I remember when I finished my coaching program in university, and one of the sort of attributes that came out of that was to be a lifelong learner, right? So I've always been a person in my life that shoots first, asks questions later. Like, if something looks good, I'll just jump at it and do it, right? Whether it's a business, whether it's whatever, I take that 5 minutes to kind of process and go, that makes sense. And you go at it 100%, right? And it's just kind of like the same thing that we're doing is, we don't have our complete roadmap ironed out on where we're going this. But I think that there's enough passion and conviction and desire in where we're going to go. We're going to let the Spirit lead us on this. And what I'm hoping is if as people see what we're doing and want to sort of come along for the ride, I want to have experts join us. I want to have people with stories join us. Like, everybody's story is important, right? And what somebody's learned from that story is so important, right? So my story today and where I'm at in my current life is heavily influenced and engaged around silver, right? Because that's what I've been living in for the last number of years. And that's what has really opened up my eyes to natural health and kind of given me this broader understanding for this broader discussion, right? And it's given me this education to learn, understand, but more importantly, engage with so many people and learn their stories. But if there's people that are watching and listening this that are like, hey, I can be your expert on oregano. I can be your expert on tea tree oil. Let's bring them in for the discussion. Like, I don't want this to be all about one thing, right? I don't want this to be salesy or, you know, of course we like it when people support our businesses because it puts food on the table, but it's not all about that. Like, I want to make sure that what we provide to people is broad, right? Because in the world of health, it's not a one size fits all discussion, right? There's many roads to natural wellness based on natural products and natural regimens and what people are doing. So, you know, I don't want to push my beliefs down somebody's throat where they've got an equal great ability to make positive difference in people's lives.
Yeah. Well, and that broad knowledge, just from my personal experience, is like it's helped empower me as a mother, as a wife, where it took me from just the normal way of thinking where I was just reactionary. I was a victim to things, and I just, you know, it was just, I thought it was genetic or whatever it is, where once you have these tools, and yes, there's many, and we connected because I hunted you down because this stuff is so powerful. I've seen so many things where I was just so surprised that it took me this long to figure it out or to come across it. And so again, it's just knowing all the things and then knowing which one is best for you or your family in whatever situation. But it's just, there's so much out there that people aren't aware of yet that could really help change their lives, right? And just going from a place of fear to a place of peace when it comes to your health. And so that's really just, I'm so glad we've been able to connect. And I know there's just so much that's going to unfold with this. Like,
Totally.
we, you know, it's just the connection, the timing. We don't even have the full roadmap, but there's something special, and there's going to be just helpful information that's going to be shared. And, you know, if it touches one person's life, right, and changes that one life, it's all worth it. So.
And I think people just need to hear this discussion that we're having today.
Yeah.
Right? Like unedited, uncensored, unclipped. Like, this is just real raw discussion. And you know, neither one of us have anything to gain by doing this other than just discussing it and what we're going to do. And we're just going to learn. And the cool thing is, and I think this is going to be beneficial to everybody that listens or watches or is a part of this, is because we're both kind of a couple dumb schmucks just dipping our toes in the water on this. We're going to come hopefully from a place and a voice and a conversation that other people are having in their minds as well, right? So rather than coming to people with the answers, we're coming to people with the questions that we go down the road with to find our answers on. And you know, and together we'll look at those, we'll debate them, yeah, this one makes sense. You know, like this is how dumb I am when it comes to this stuff. Is I got schooled the other day. I mean, schooled by a natural practitioner on mushrooms. And I always thought that mushrooms served two purposes. You bought them in the grocery store to cook or to get high, right? Like that was my knowledge of mushrooms, right? Well, she got into, and we'll get her as a guest on this at some point. But I mean, she got into the actual true healing properties of mushrooms, blew my mind, right? And that's a good place for us to explore and talk to people as well. As it's just like, so many people are told nowadays, take your probiotic, you know, take your vitamins, you know. Okay, well, I'm doing it because I'm told to, right? Well, what's the why behind it? You know, why am I taking probiotics? Why am I taking vitamins? What are they doing for my body? And if we can just peel that little layer off of the why, you know, to the how and that, then when people are looking at these kind of things and saying, okay, what do I need to take, or what do I need to take, or what's in this, or what's important to me, you know, not only are you just getting the advertisement that you see online or wherever that, you know, take this, take that, take this, you know, buy mine because I got the sexiest label, or buy mine because I make it look all fancy and people dancing across the screen and all this other crap that people do to get people to buy products. Trust me, I've been in that world. I know that world probably better than anybody, right? So, you know, the tricks that the natural health industry, or the quasi-natural health industry, because there's that whole middle ground of shit products in the middle of it too, that do to get people to buy their products, is the same stuff as this. You know, they play the same emotional mind games. They do the same tactics, the same visual things, the music, you know, the testimonials, the this and that, the other, you know, buy me, buy me, buy me, is what they're basically telling you, right? So, you know, not only are we educating people about what's going to be happening within this, you know, in their body, it's really important that you understand what's going on when you take the natural route as well, and being able to, you know, look at that, the supplement facts, or look at the ingredients deck on a product, and make sure that actually you're buying something of quality. So here's an interesting fact. I'm sure that most of the people who are watching this are going to be on Facebook or YouTube, right? And we're going to post this in our Facebook group. This is no BS. Most people are seeing many advertisements show up in their newsfeed for different health supplements. The big one right now is probiotics, right? And the reason why people are paying such close attention to probiotics is because it's a product that can pretty much be compliantly marketed from an FDA standpoint. And we'll get into that education on understanding the FDA and the DSHEA Act and natural supplements and that kind of thing, you know, as we go with this. That's like a whole episode in itself. But anyways, probiotics are the trend right now. Everybody's buying probiotics. Everybody's marketing probiotics. I go on Facebook, I spend 15 minutes scrolling down my newsfeed. I've probably seen 15 probiotic ads. Interesting point that most people don't realize, that of those 15 probiotics that I just saw, probably 10 of them all come from the same manufacturer. Wow. So what a lot of people don't realize in the natural health space is, and this can be a whole other discussion / episode one day that we do in the future, is white labeling of on-demand health supplements. I don't do this. Everything that I'm a part of manufacturing is proprietary blends that we've spent years developing and testing and making sure that we're coming with our own products. But literally, I could set up a full-blown nutraceutical health product company in 15 minutes with up to 45 products for $1,000. And that's what people are being taught to do nowadays, is there's companies that drop ship and they call it print on demand health products. where I can go to one of these companies, I can design a sweet, sexy label, and I send that label to them. I set up a website with that label and write a whole bunch of bullshit about the products, because most of them are crap anyways. And, you know, buy me, buy me, buy me. I made this fancy label and I told you all this crap about my product. It's, most people don't even know what they're talking about anyways. And now they're in the supplement market. And that's how a lot of that online health and wellness works. So I'm anti-big pharma. I've got my opinions on the FDA and the FTC, as we do. But there's also got to be some form of integrity into what us that are in the natural health supplement arena do as well. And I think it's important that, as much as we're educating people on, you know, what's in the happy little hamburger helper here in life, we need to make sure that we're giving people the best fighting chance, that if they are choosing a natural health supplement, or they're choosing, you know, a natural health product, that they're also educated as to what they're buying. And this is a discussion that most people are afraid to have, right? Because when you're in the health, natural health industry, you know, so much of the natural health industry is this buy on demand, drop ship kind of health supplements that meet the absolute minimum necessary requirements to be good, that people are dumping their money down the toilet, right? So I want to make sure that in what we're doing, we're taking that overall big picture approach to education. And like I say, by no means did I ever want to say that I'm an expert on anything. But one thing I can say is I'm very, very knowledgeable about how this industry works. And if anybody's going to give $1 to their health, I want to make sure that that dollar is going to the best benefits of their health. Right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot, and I'm not going to pick on any brands, right? Or I'm not going to pick on any labels, because I don't think that's fair to do. But I'm just going to, you know, like you've seen my at-home pharmacy here. It's the same discussion we're going to have with this that we're going to have with this, right? Like, let's just look at the facts, right? What's in this? What's the added ingredients? You know, like and natural supplements ain't cheap. You know, this bottle of whatever it is, vitamin mineral supplement. I don't even know how good it is. I have to read it one day. You know, $44, right? Yeah. Well, if you're taking this $44 bottle and you're taking a couple and then your pee's bright yellow, let's talk about that. Right? Like, let's talk about how much of this is going to be used for your body, because there's no sense in making an adaptive lifestyle change from this to this if you're just going to spend a whole bunch of money on this and not go in the right direction. Mm-hmm. Right? So let's tear this one apart too, and make sure that, you know, we're not healing, treating, curing anything, but we're just giving people solid information to make smart decisions. Mm-hmm. That the pennies and the dollars that they spend taking care of themselves are done, you know, as efficiently as possible. Yeah. Yeah. And people need to know, like, you know, you go into let's just look at this for a sec. All right. So without looking at a label for a second, I'm just going to tilt my screen down here. let's look at this. That one, that one, that one, that one. I know I've got more. But so there's 4 products, 4 different company names, all the same product, all the same bottle, right? If I chase it back, it's all the same manufacturer. It's all coming from the same facility. These 4 people were just smart enough to come up with a label, tell a really cool story about their product, and convince you to buy their product. Wow. Right? So as much as there's deceit and deception that's happening in the grocery store brands of foods, it's also happening in the health supplements. And I don't want to say that we want to be a whistleblower, because that's not what we're being. We just want to educate people that what they're looking at is authentic, because there's a lot of deception going on. And there's a lot of tactics that are played on people online to purchase products that don't work. So I just want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to educate people on both sides of the discussion on this stuff.
Yeah, got to keep the balance. And that's such an important story to tell, because that's what gives natural wellness a bad rap. That's why people give up on it so quick, because they're marketed by a company whose sole intention is just profit. Mm-hmm. And it's a not high quality product. And so the people spend all this money, they don't get any results, and therefore all natural medicines are bogus. And so it's really important to see that big picture. Like, there's multiple people selling the same thing, and you have to know what that thing is, and knowing the quality and how to decipher that quality. And that's something that, you know, I've been on this journey trying to figure out for my family, for my kids, for my husband, who got off all his pharmaceutical medication, and we started adding supplemental natural supplements. And so knowing that, I think the percent was like 80% of natural supplements are all just like bogus. They're not even what they claim to be, and there's no FDA regulations, and they're not forced to test or prove quality. Like, that was huge. I was like, whoa, like, most of the things you can buy out there are not what they claim to be, and have a lot of fillers, talking about chemicals, disruptors. And that's really making it hard for the truths in the true products, the ones that we're talking about, the ones we've experienced. It makes it hard for it to become more mainstream knowledge, because people just put it in a category with snake oil, right? And so that's really another important thing that's been on my heart, is just letting people know, have clarity on this, and just know the distinction with any business. Because think of whether it's big pharma or natural wellness modalities, like, it all boils down to integrity, right? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the way business people have been kind of molded in this generation is, it's all about maximizing profits. It's all about scaling. It's all about money, right? But what about the people, right? So it really needs to shift from just being a way to make a quick buck, a way to, you know, trap someone into, you know, some type of medication for life. It has to be about serving that person and doing it from a place of love, a place of honesty. And when you do it that way, then it'll naturally bring the results, and people return customers, right? So yeah, I'm excited to tap into your brain, because you have that behind the scenes experience, which I'm on the other side. I'm the mama buying all the supplements. So you're the behind the scenes shipping them out, or
so and that's where, like I say, as much as I do have my challenges with the FDA, right? Because the FDA tells us people in the natural health space, and we'll have a story about what we went through last year with that side of things, you know, another time. But the FDA rules on natural health supplements is you can't heal, treat, cure a health condition, right? And in my opinion, and I know we were going to stay away from opinions, but in my opinion, neither do they, right? But they are unfortunately the rule of law, whether we agree with it or not. It is what it is. So they say when you're going to sell a natural health supplement, you're not going to heal, treat, or cure any condition, right? So as much as I have my feelings and thoughts about that governing body, I do have to agree with them to a point that the holistic market played people for a long time and continue to do so, that there has to be something that regulates that people aren't getting duped and deceived. And just like big pharma is extremely crafty at positioning their languaging around people. So here's an interesting fact. So years ago, pharmaceutical companies would hire pharmaceutical reps that would travel all over North America and visit the doctors and visit the private clinics, and basically they were the representatives of the drug companies to get the doctors to sell their prescriptions, right? You think about how many doctors' offices and how many hospitals there are in America. Thousands. So how many drug reps would you have to have? Thousands and thousands, right? And these guys would sit and wait for a doctor to get 10 minutes of their attention to try and sell them on selling their supplements. So where was pharma masterful? Is they switched the narrative. Now you see the happy people golfing, the guy running down the stairs in the morning to happy music after he took his Viagra, and the life is just great because he was able to do what he did as a result of taking that pill. And you see the old guys golfing, and life is great. You took your Humera, or whatever it is, it's always just this wonderful celebration of running down the beach holding hands because of your pharmaceutical application. And it's within their right to do that, right? So they run down the beach. You're going to not have such and such a condition anymore if you take that pill. But of the 45-second ad, you get the 15 seconds of the love, happy, joy, rainbows and unicorns. Then you get the other 30 seconds of, so it's great that you took this, but your head's going to fall off, your penis is going to fall off, your legs are going to turn orange, like all this kind of crap is going to happen to you. But hey, we tackled one thing over here, so it's good. So what Big Pharma did is they took to that marketing program. What's the thing that they say in every commercial? Ask your doctor about. Go see your doctor. So what they did is, rather than having drug reps going to visit the doctors, they turned people into drug reps going into into the doctor's offices saying, I need that pill because I saw it on TV and it's going to fix my this. And the doctor's going to go, okay, sure. There you go. So who's the salesperson now? It's not the doctor. They turn the people into the salesperson to request their drugs. Yeah. Brilliant. They save billions of dollars a year in staffing and sales team, and they've just turned a population into salespeople taking control of their own health.
Wow, it's crazy.
People don't think about this kind of stuff, right? People do not think about these kind of things, and they just kind of merrily go on with their lives, not thinking about the hows and the whys behind each subject that touches their lives in their health, right? Yeah. We see Coca-Cola commercials, we see Pepsi commercials, we see soda pop commercials. Life is going to be better. You need it, you need it, you need it. Well, there's no discussion that we need to have on how bad that stuff is for you, right? So there's a lot with that.
I said 2 more hours on that topic.
Yeah. So I think as we go forward here, there's just so much for us to talk about and so much for us to explore.
Ooh, man, I'm excited. This is going to be amazing. Yeah, I can't wait. There's going to be a lot to cover here and a lot to learn together.
For all of us, for you, for me, for anybody that's watching, for anybody that we bring in to talk with us, like this just needs to be an open discussion forum of learning, right? And if we're presenting incorrect information, it isn't out of fault, correct us. Like, we don't want to be an authoritative figure on something that we're not, presenting that's truthful. The last thing I ever want to do is present something that isn't completely proper. So this is a discussion, right? And people can comment on this video and what we're doing, and then let's just open up a dialogue here. But if we have that comment, or if we have that dialogue, if we keep it away from feeling or thinking, or not thinking, if we
around here.
don't think if we keep it away from the feeling behind it, or we keep it away from the the emotion, and just keep it around the fact, right? Then we can have an intelligent conversation around things based on substance. Because as I see in I see in Facebook all the time where somebody will post something and there's be 1,000 comments on it of just people's opinions about it, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. We want people to have an opinion always, but let's base that opinion in substance, not just I have an opinion because I feel like I think something. Like, okay, if you're going to think something, feel something, present a rebuttal based on some research and some fact. Same way that we're trying to bring information out there.
Yeah. And just thinking of that, like you were just talking about these pharmaceutical commercials, like that's how they're getting you to buy. That's how like the manipulation is kind of happening, in that it's all about emotion, right? And so like they're giving you an emotion without any anything else behind it, any not truth. And so that's where things get lost. They get lost when emotions get overwhelmed, they're kind of blinding, right? Emotions are kind of blinding. You get set in your ways and you don't want to hear the other side, where the other side is going to give you a balanced perspective. So yes, we're going to do our best to keep our opinions, to a minimum. We'll try and keep it simple, straight to the facts that we learn, which, with scientific research, sometimes those facts shift, or the data shifts, I guess I should say. So we're here growing together, learning together, and we want y'all to join us. And so yeah, that's really it. I guess we don't have a clear plan set just yet, but we'll keep you posted. If you guys just want to subscribe or join whatever groups we have, like that's where we'll put it. And that's really it. Any final thoughts, Doug?
And we're here to serve. So if what we presented here today is empowering and you're taking something with it, give us a thumbs up, join, subscribe, be a part of this. But if you like our approach in presenting information and researching information, and there's certain topics that you would like us to tear apart for you, or go to the next level, like one of the things we said earlier in this broadcast was, we're on this course to learning. People are busy, and a lot of people are too busy to spend the time learning about a certain subject. So if there's something that you want to learn about, use us to do some research and present that in a future episode, so that we all learn this together, and hopefully we can take that time for you, so you can carry on with your busy life, and we can bring that information back to you. So this is, a lot of what we bring forward, and a lot of the content that we put together is going to be put together from what you're asking us for as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll see y'all in some more videos real soon.